How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to talk about circumference. An essential question you guys need to ask is, what are all the parts to a circle and how do they help us find the circumference? So that's something I want you guys to think about as we go through these notes. All right, so we're going to start off with our vocabulary. Our first word is diameter. The diameter is the distance across. So the distance across a circle through the center. The next word is radius. The radius is the distance halfway across the edge. The edge to the center equal to half of the diameter. All right, and then circumference. Circumference is the distance around a circle. So basically the perimeter. And then lastly, pi, that's the ratio of the circumference to the diameter. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this circle over here off to the right. On the circle, we're going to go ahead and label it. All right, I know you guys kind of went over that already this week, but it's never a bad thing to see it again. So this line that's going through the center of our circle, that's our diameter. All right, this one that's halfway across, that's our radius. Oh, snap. All right, and then the distance around our circle, so going all the way around our circle, that is the circumference. All right, so that kind of answers that part of our essential question that says, what are all the parts of the circle? So we could check that off. And now what we're going to learn is, how do they help us find the circumference? And we're going to figure that out here in the second portion. So we're going to talk about the formula for circumference. We have two different formulas that we could use. The first one says C is equal to 2 pi r. So the r represents the radius. All right, and then pi is represented by 3.14. So pi is equal to 3.14. So basically what this is saying is we're going to multiply 2 times 3.14 times our radius. And that's how we'll find our circumference. Or we can use circumference is equal to pi times d. That d is the diameter. All right, and then of course pi is equal to 3.14. And we use 3.14 to represent pi. All right, so I guess one question that's going to come next is, when do I know which one to use? And we're going to talk about that here in a second. So now we're going to talk about the steps to solve the problems involving circumference. Step one is going to be, you're going to determine if you are giving or solving for the radius or the diameter. All right, step two, you're going to write the formula. So you're going to write the formula. Oops, I don't know why. All right, in my class, you know I love saying WTF. So WTF stands for write the formula. So you are going to write the formula. Step three, you're going to plug in what you are given. All right, so did they give you the circumference, did they give you the radius, or did they give you the diameter? Step 4, you're going to solve for the missing variables. All right, so for instance, if you're solving for C, so if you're solving for the circumference, you're going to end up multiplying. And then if you're solving for the radius or the diameter, you're going to divide. And then step 5, you're going to label your answer. All right, so that's all there is to it. But it's always nice when we get to practice and know exactly what's going on. So, example 1 says solve for the circumference. So over here we're going to solve for circumference. The first thing that you want to do is look at what they gave you. So on this circle, they gave us 6 centimeters. And 6 centimeters is represented by the radius. All right, we know that's the radius because it's going halfway through the circle, okay? So it's only going halfway through. If it went from end to end, that would be our diameter. But they gave us our radius here. So because we have the radius, we're going to use a formula that has a radius in it. And that formula is going to be C is equal to 2 pi r. All right, now what we're going to do is plug in what we know. So I know what the radius is. The radius is 6. So in place of r, I'm going to put down a 6. All right, I know that pi is estimated to 3.14. So I'm going to put down 3.14. And then now I'm also going to include my 2. And remember, as our note said, if you're looking for C, you're going to multiply. So all we're going to do is multiply these 3 numbers. So I'm going to combine 2 and 3.14. So 3.14 times 2 is going to give me 6.28, or 6 and 28 hundredths. And then I'm going to bring down my 6. All right, so now all that's left for me to do is to multiply 6 and 28 hundredths times 6. So we're going to do that off to the right here. Move my decimal 2 places over. And now we have 37. And so, I'm sorry, I put my decimal in the wrong place. We have 37 and 68 hundredths. And as our note said, our last step should be is to label centimeters. So that's all there is to it, to that one. All right, moving on to example 2. It says Gene's frying pan is 14 inches in diameter. What is the circumference of the frying pan? All right, so unlike example 1, they didn't give us a visual here. We're going to have to draw out our own visual. So we have a circle. And for that circle, it says it has a diameter that's 14 inches. And remember, with the diameter, we're going all the way across. So we're going from end to end. So we're coming from one side all the way through. And that diameter is 14 inches. Now that we have our visual, and we can kind of see things better, we know since we have the diameter, we're going to use this second formula, all right? Because that second formula includes the diameter. So we're going to WTF, which is write the formula for circumference is equal to pi d. So pi times diameter. All right, now I'm going to plug in what I know. I know my diameter is 14. And I know pi is estimated to be 3.14. And the only thing we don't know is our circumference. But since we're looking for circumference, we know we're going to end up multiplying. So we're going to multiply 3 and 14 hundredths, or 3.14, times 14. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead here a little bit. When I multiply those two, I'm going to end up with 43 and 96 hundredths. And like our last step says, we label our answer. So our answer here is 43 and 96 hundredths of an inch. All right, moving on to example 3. Example 3 says a circle has a circumference of 132 meters. What is the diameter of this circle? Okay, awesome. So now we're going to get to work backwards, which is cool. So the question's asking for what's the diameter. They already gave us the circumference, but we don't know what the diameter is. So what formula do you think we're going to use? The formula that we have the radius in, or the formula that we have the diameter in? It's going to be like an episode of Dora the Explorer. I can't really hear y'all's responses, so I'll just answer. We're going to use the formula where we have the diameter in it. So I'm going to write down circumference is equal to pi times our diameter. So the same way we did before, we're going to plug in the information that we know. We know that pi is estimated to be 3.14, and we know our circumference is 138 and 2/10. The only thing that we don't know is our diameter. So we're going to treat this like we're solving an equation. We want to get we want to get the diameter by itself. So we would have to divide by 3.14 on both sides. So we're going to divide by 3.14 on both sides. And then once we do that, we'll isolate our variable, which is and we'll have our diameter. So we're going to do 138 and 2/10 divided by 3.14. And once we do that, we'll end up with 44. And if we round it, it'll be about 44 and 100th. But there is one shortcut to this, and I probably should have said it at the beginning. If you're given multiple choice answers that aren't really close in value, for instance, A, we have 22, B, we have 44. 22 and 44 aren't close. 44 and 66 aren't close. And then 66 and 88 aren't close. They're really far apart. If the answer choices are really far apart, instead of using 3.14, you can simply use 3. So instead of using 3.14, you can simply use 3. And if we would have did 138 divided by 3, we would have ended up with 46. Only one answer choice is close to 46, and that would have been answer choice B. So that's one way to kind of make it a little bit easier when you're trying to solve for your circumference or parts of the circle, and you have multiple choice answers. Because I know if we could avoid using decimals, we will. So make it easier on yourself on some of these multiple choice questions. All right, moving on to number 4, our last one. Trevor needs a new bicycle tire. His tire has a circumference of 13 and 1/100th of an inch. What is the radius of his tire? So we're looking for the radius on this one. Since we're looking for the radius, we're going to write down the formula of circumference is equal to 2 pi r. And now we're going to plug in the information that we know. We know the circumference is 113 and 4/100th. We're going to bring down our 2, and we know pi is equal to 3.14, but we don't know our radius. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and multiply 2 and 3.14, and that gets me 6 and 28/100ths, and that's equal to 113 and 4/100ths. And now the only thing left is to find r. So now we're going to go ahead and divide. We're going to divide by 6 and 28/100ths on both sides. And again, none of the answer choices are really that close. So you could do 113 and divide that by 6, and you're going to end up with around 18. So if I did 113 and I divided that by 6, I'm going to end up with around 18. So answer choice C would end up being our closest answer there. All right, so those conclude your notes. We went over what the parts of a circle are and how we can use those to find the circumference. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to get in contact with me.